There we go. How are you, Veronica?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's a sunny day, so I'm a little bright here, but blinds closed and it's too dark. So
Yeah, I know it's the winter, the low light is a little bit tricky to work with.
it is, yeah.
Well, good to see you. Welcome everyone to our first painting challenge on Zoom. We used to do this live on Instagram and we thought, oh, the video quality is so poor. Let's move it over. And I think we have 125 artists registered. So it's going to be, it's going to be great. All right, so welcome, Veronica. If you all haven't met Veronica yet, she is one of our master artists at Mastrius. She is from Alberta in Western Canada, and she is a master of portraiture, I would say, and is very well known for her series on women, and she has quite a few series that tells a story too, because you focus on the story. These are actually real women on their stories, and then you paint their portrait.
Yeah, I really like working, focusing on project based. So not just one piece, but a whole series. Mm-hmm. And typically, done throughout a year or something like that. Oh my goodness, that sunshine.
You look like an angel. All right, so so today you gave us a challenge of this chair, and I'll pin it again, or I'll spotlight it. How many spotlights can we have going? Okay, cool. So there's your painting, and tell us a bit about it. And I have the reference photo here somewhere too, I'll find, but maybe just tell us a bit about it.
Okay, so it's funny, years ago when I started painting professionally, first it goes right back to, I was nursing babies. So I had two children, 5.5 years apart. Both of them were severely lactose intolerant at birth. So I had to nurse them both for 2 years. So I was sitting a lot and nursing babies for a long time, both times. And I always kept a little sketchbook by me. And I would a sketchbook, a book, and a glass of water by every seat in the house. And I would sketch my furniture around me. And then I one day decided to create a large piece. So I did went straight to 4 foot by 4 foot, or 5 foot by 5 foot, and stretched a canvas and translated some of my little sketches onto the canvas. And I painted that, just for myself, in my house. But that led to another and another, and then, hundreds of paintings later. But that was my first series. It was called Simple Pleasures. So it was just about, the books around me, just appreciating my house. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I learned through that time, I did that for a number of years, but through that time, is creating those little, they just are little thumbnail sketches that I just draw. So, and the reason I do that, I work from a sketch rather than from real life. So my sketch comes from life or from a photo with these portraits, but then I translate that because I can change the shape of it depending on the shape and size of my canvas. And that same chair, like the chair in the painting challenge today, that's my husband's leather chair that we've had for almost 30 years. It's in rough shape now. It's been through kids and dogs and everything, but I can take that same subject and I can turn it into, I can change the shapes of the arms, change it. And so I have created hundreds of paintings just based on this chair. I maybe put a little different lamp or a little different side table by it, but I just set it up and then I do a bunch of sketches and then I change it. Maybe I don't like the way the blanket is lying or the pillow is sitting or the book, I'll open, close books and everything. But it's just funny how one subject, one image can, spur so many ideas. And then I work off of my sketch because, first of all, I like my paintings to be a little wonky. I don't want it realistic at all. Even my portraits aren't perfect likenesses of someone, because I used to do that. That's how I got into art school. And I just dreaded drawing or painting every day because it was just so particular. And as soon as I learned in college, you can do whatever you want. You're the artist, right? So, and even like I was mentioning in one of my groups the other day, that one of my first interviews, they asked me if my last name Funk was like just an art name because my work was so funky. No, it's me, it's my husband. Yeah. But yeah, I just like having that inspiration. And then so I usually work from a sketch and not from the actual item. So I can really manipulate shadows and light and colors and even forms.
I love that. Did you see the sketch? I tried to share it. Did it work out?
You showed the
The photo.
photo, share.
Okay. I'll share the sketch now.
Can you see these? So these are just little thumbnail sketches.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the sketch. Yeah. So just so simple, this quick little, so I had a lamp. Originally, I had that chair upstairs, but then we needed to send it out to get repaired. And then it went downstairs. Now it's down here, but now it's wrecked again because my daughter has a massive dog. But
Oh, no.
but it happens, But so upstairs we have this, craftsman lamp. So that was there. There were some books because we're avid readers in our household. So there are always books piled up on side tables and stuff. But so now it's downstairs. What that photo was originally that I took the other day was from down, where it is in our family room now. So it's still used, it's still loved, and it's still a great inspiration for the work that I do. And the other thing, what I like about doing thumbnail sketches too, because I can zoom right in and go right out. Like I just sit on the coffee table or on other pieces of furniture and just sketch from those different locations, just to look at things differently.
So the decisions that you made around this painting, like the chair is a brown leather and you painted it into red with the turquoise pillow. Tell us a bit about those decisions.
Well, I love color. So, and I've done things where I've tried to do it more monochromatic, more neutral tones. And then I don't have as much fun with it. So, and over the years, like when I started, I just used 3 primary colors plus titanium white. So ultramarine blue, cadmium red medium, and cadmium yellow medium. But over time, learned more about how toxic cadmiums are and they can leach into your skin. And I have tried the non-cadmium red and yellow, but they're not the same. So anyway, over time, I switched my color palette. I switched my, to be more environmentally friendly and less toxic. And an artist who mentored me years ago, Audrey Mabey, she told me 2 things. She told me, first of all, because I used to paint my canvases lime green before I painted the interior. And the reason I did that was back in college, we learned to make our own gesso. And then I would color my gesso. Well, first of all, I would stretch, drop cloths from the hardware store because they're 100% cotton. They're fantastic. But it's more expensive now to stretch your own canvas half the time than to buy a pre-stretched and pre-gessoed and everything. But anyway, I would do lime green because the group of 7, it's totally opposite, but because they were painting so many things in cool colors, blues and greens, they would prime their surfaces, their substrates in an ochre, or they would leave the wood and just do a clear prime on it, like it's called rabbit glue or whatever priming back in the day. And then that way any of those warm tones that would pop through would just warm up all the cool tones. And I thought, well, if they can do that with, ochre, and the thing is I use a lot of warm colors often. So then I thought, well, like a green screen, how things just pop up, pop against a green screen. I thought, well, I'm going to try that. So I did lime green. And then I would draw with charcoal on the canvas, just very loose. And that's why I liked working large, because I could go really loose with my, moving my arms, my whole body. And then I would take it outside and spray it with fixative and then paint. And the paint would still pick up some of the charcoal, which I didn't mind because it, kind of gives it form by the edges and everything. But then Audrey told me 2 things. She said, number 1, have you ever tried drawing straight on your canvas with your brush? Like, don't pre-draw, because you'll get a looseness with that. And the other thing is, she said, you should really try some transparent colors, because I always used opaque colors in the past. And over time, my palette has become more and more and more transparent colors, because I can make them opaque when I mix them with titanium or with other opaque, opaque red with the transparent. So she introduced me to alizarin crimson, and now I love like Indian yellow, and it's another one. Like, I love these transparents, turquoise deep, dioxazine purple. Yeah, so over time that happened, which is good, because I can work less and less with acrylics now, because my husband's allergies have gotten worse. So I'm translating, now what I done with acrylics to watercolors. And it's so nice, because now I've had years of practice with, transparent glazes and things like that too, in those layers. So funny how, everything is just a cycle, right?
Yeah. Things are always changing and morphing. So are you painting an acrylic today?
I am. So I have to have my studio window open, my door shut, and my husband's not home till 6. So everything will air out before he gets home, hopefully. And I throw it in my closet to cure. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it's become such a problem, but
Yeah, that is hard. Well, good for you for adapting.
Yeah.
So all right, we have I think we have 52 artists here currently. So let's dive in. I'm going to spotlight you. I'll take me off of spotlight so we get a bigger screen.
So I wanted to mention a couple of things about some of the supplies. So one of the things I use, oh my gosh, this sunshine is lovely but hard. It's called Flow Aid Medium. And I use Liquitex because for years my husband couldn't handle, what is it? The G one, golden, because there's something in it. I don't know, preservative or something that bothered him. And Liquitex didn't bother him for years, but now it is a struggle for him. So I use some drops of this Flow Aid media in my water for when I'm thinning my paint, because if you just thin acrylics with water, you can run the risk of wiping that paint off in time if you clean your, painting or whatever somebody does. Because there's something in a Flow Aid media, there are other mediums, there are lots. If you go to those websites of Liquitex and Golden and all of them, they'll have videos and explanations of what you can use to thin your paint, and and to make it more transparent and that. The other thing I use, this is just a little, it's a mini mister I picked up at Michael's once, but it's just water. And I use it kind of like my eraser and stuff. I also use it in my palette to wet my paints, to keep them a little down, because it's a nice little mist. It fits in my pochade, which is fantastic. But if I draw something and I don't quite like how it looks or where it is, I can spritz it and kind of rub it back. It doesn't get rid of those underdrawings with my brush, but and I don't mind that, because more lines just adds more interest to an artwork over time, but it is like my little eraser. So those are the two tools I use a lot. And then flat brushes. I love flat, well, this one's got a bit of an angle, and I love these what are they, Royal and Langnickel. They're inexpensive, from Michael's. And I like that you can get, use the edge or the corner, get smaller marks, but you can get lots of paint on at the same time. And I love these because we live in such a dry climate that the wood, I find wood brushes are so hard. I go through them because they dry right out, and then this ferrule loosens and I have to glue them back on. But with the plastic handle, that doesn't happen as much. And these are inexpensive and they last me for years and years. And I teach workshops to kids and I share my brushes with them, so they can tolerate a lot, which is fantastic.
And I did see a question come up in the chat, and I'm seeing our members answering it. Thank you. So yes, you can paint whatever chair you like. You can use Veronica's reference photo, use her painting as inspiration, but what we love to do is paint things, try to compose it in our own way so that it's unique, and then paint it in our own style using our own favorite color palette. You're welcome to copy Veronica, but you're also welcome to explore and do your own thing as we go.
Yeah, everybody's will be different. You know, even when I'm asked to repaint something, I don't, because it's never going to be the same. First of all, I get bored and it's just not the nature of the way I work. And I don't think it is for most people. Like, no matter what you do, it's like your handwriting, it's going to look like you, I think, in the end anyway.
Yeah.
So do you want to start? Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Dive in.
So I am starting today with dioxazine purple, though I popped my picture up on my phone just to look at it. I think I did probably ultramarine blue on that one. But anyway, I've got tons of little paint tubes that I've been using for, you know, with kids and stuff. So I thought perfect way to use them up. And what's nice about the under drawing or painting is that it, you can change the shape as it goes. So one of the things that no matter what I paint, I start by painting, but then I go back in and, well, Julie, you do this all the time. Hey, change the shapes even of your curves. Sometimes you want them bigger, sometimes smaller. You can just keep changing things. So you'd never have to worry about being perfect right at the beginning.
Right.
There is one thing I do try to do is try not to make lines like dead center on each end. But that rule can be broken too, depending on how your light and dark draw your eyes, so they keep them going or moving around your canvas. So I used to do everything really large. Now I work small. So
if you're looking, if you're looking for the reference photo, I'm sharing it right here, but you'll find it on Instagram at mastrius.official. You'll see the painting, and if you click on that post and swipe, you'll see the reference photo. So maybe you can keep that on your desktop or on your smartphone as we go. Or take a screenshot.
One of the things that, yeah, so one of the things too, because you can take from different angles. You can look from above down into your furniture, sitting down on the ground, looking up. So it's just your perspective. And all you have to do when you're looking at perspective is pay attention to how every shape looks to the other. Like, you know, the old way where you hold your thumb out and measure, you know, using your brush or your pencil, that's still a thing. Like, it's really important. If something doesn't look right, do that. Hold your arm out and see, oh, did I make that line too long or too short? Is it, you know, is that what's looking odd? The other thing I do, or not so much anymore, but I used to always turn my painting into a mirror. So look at it backwards. And nowadays you can take a picture with your phone and flip it or turn it into black and white just to see if something doesn't feel right. It's usually just something little that needs to be adjusted. So but yeah, I like breaking rules and stuff too. Since I haven't quite decided which one of these images I'm going to kind of do, probably a little more to. So the one thing is that painting is on a horizontal, you know, 36 by 48, that original, and this I'm doing on a 10 by 10 square. So it'll be a little different. I do paint around the edges of all my work too, because I think that looks interesting.
I just popped the reference photo in the chat. I think you should be able to download it from there. I've never done
that. That's the other thing too. You can look at angles. So you can use your brush to measure, you know, just because I'm never really specific about things. I don't measure with rulers. Even if I'm hanging artwork, I just kind of eyeball things. So, and you'll see how high the arm is on one side versus how far down it is on the other side if you're working at an angle.
And this is dioxazine purple?
This is dioxazine purple. And the other thing is, often you want to make sure your angles are the same. So if this one's going straight this way, this one will too. But then sometimes I make that obviously wonkier. I'll make this one further down, but also your perspective can change the angle of everything. But that's the other thing. When you're looking at perspective and that, if one line is a certain angle, you got to make sure your other one is, or if it isn't, it has to be intentional. Otherwise it'll off.
If it's not perfect, make it really not perfect, so it looks intentional. So Deb, she is spot lit. You'll have to ensure you're looking at Yeah, I spotlit her, so she should be large for
Okay.
Yeah, if you change your view, I think, right, at the top right
Yeah.
of your,
speaker.
I got it.
Okay, good.
have another arm come. So one arm is up there, so I kind of eyeball it across and have the other one coming down at the same angle as the bottom of this chair.
Is that a 12 by 12?
It's a 10 by 10. It's so funny, Julie. I think it was Heather and I were talking about how we struggle with the 12 by 12. We like 10 by 10 better. And I don't know why 2 inches would make all the difference.
Yeah, well, I used to struggle with 12 by 12s, and now, of course, it's such a popular size.
It sure is.
I have three,
And it sure looks nice in a grouping. If you've got 4 12 by 12s together, it looks really nice in a nice square.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't like how this is shaped, so I'm just going to change that a bit. And then, and I do like really, really strong contrast. So the 2 things that I've always done is make sure there's, really strong dark and really strong light. And I also, so I like a really strong light source. So I'll just pretend that this light is coming down like this.
If you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat.
And the other thing, when I was in college, the one thing we were told, always, always move around your painting, constantly move around your painting, because one line will affect another line. And well, it's kind of nice to see it in the screen so I can see how wonky, like I do want wonky, but not weird. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, for sure. It's fun to watch you paint.
okay, I was going to make the lamp a full length lamp, but I think I'm going to change that. I'm going to change the legs of the table here. I'll figure it out later. Okay, so the last thing I need to add, and that's the other thing in school, and I think they always tell you this, use a bigger brush than you think you'll need, because it'll force you not to focus on details too early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I like to start with a big brush for my first layer, and then the medium one for my second, and then a small one for my third.
And then I go back in with a big brush after to fill some spots and stuff too. You know what? I didn't add a blanket, but I do want to add one, so I'll pop one in. So this is my book. I want the book at an angle. And then I'll pop this book here. Okay, this looks pretty messy, but now I'm gonna thin my paint out more with my water with the drops of the medium in there. And this is where I start putting in shadows. And I do the same thing whether I'm painting portraits or canoes. It's the shadows that give things form. And this too, even at this point, I can change shapes of things by moving the shadow, adding shadow somewhere else, You know what? I'm gonna put a table up here. I know the way I do this sometimes is just, my daughters always said, they never know how I come up with a finished painting at the end. It's so messy, but that's just the way I do things.
Oh, me too. Mine looks like a child has painted it usually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So another fun part of this event is that you have the week to finish your paintings, and then next week, Friday, same time, same place, we're going to come back together and we're going to share everyone's paintings. So when you're done, post it on Instagram, #Mastrius Painting Challenge, And then we're going to collect them up. We're going to put them all together, and then I'm going to share them with everyone. And Veronica and we will look at them together and see how unique everyone's is one from the other and chat a bit about it. It's kind of the best part. So fun to see what everyone comes up with.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, the other thing is I always have a rag because it's like if you're drawing with a pencil, a rag is as important as an eraser is. So I typically try to do my base layers a little thinner than my top layers. Yeah, this is really nice. I know every time I do a demo, I think, wow, that's really nice to have a screen to look at it backwards. Okay. Let's start. The other thing is because I use quite a bit of water in my early layers, that my canvas can get quite wet. So the next things, I've decided I am going to do the chair red again because I love a red chair. And so yeah, monochromatic, love doing monochromatic paintings because, you know, it's easy, just, you know, color and white basically, or, you know, a couple of colors on side by side on the color wheel in white. But I love doing complementary colors. So versions of green and red. It doesn't have to look like Christmas just because it's green and red. So today I'm going to do alizarin crimson and the turquoise deep. So it's more of a blue green and then this like burgundy blue red. So, but yes, so the red and green, purple and yellow and orange and blue. Those are like my absolute favorites. And I think, yeah, I think I'm going to, titanium white is always on my palette too. I think I'll start just by doing a thinner, because I use heavy body acrylics as well. Just to go over this to kind of fill in some of this red.
And so you're starting with fluid acrylics?
It's actually heavy body, but I thin them with that water with the medium in it, the floating medium. And just to get color on the chair. And I will be mixing white in as well into the highlight areas, so I can brighten those up. And the other thing I really like to do, which in the beginning I was kind of poo-pooed for it in the art world, is I love hard edges, absolutely love hard edges. So I like lines. And I guess that's my drawing background because that's how I started in the arts, is drawing. So, but yeah, every artist does things differently. Some people just start with shapes. They don't really draw the outlines or anything, but I do like, it's like almost like a little coloring book. And this is what I like doing with young kids too, because then they don't feel intimidated. They've got something to, you know, a recognizable image to start with.
Yeah. That's how I start too.
Yeah.
I love my hard edges.
Yes, you do. That's how I noticed your work in the beginning too. Guess I should change my brush a little bit. But this is the other thing. I do not mind messy. Like suddenly it's picked up paint underneath and it's created lines and stuff because it was still damp. So it's not pure white that I just, because that I did heavy body the white. I think I'm going to start working in the background. I haven't decided what color the pillow's gonna be. What color did I do to my painting? Oh, I did green. Oh, matched it to the background. So maybe I'll do the same thing. That's another thing, you know, carrying colors through, right? Bringing them back and forth and bring cohesion to your piece.
Yeah, I'm even in like landscape painting, I have to constantly remind myself to not just work on the sky, but work on both land and sky at the same time. So I'm getting the colors, you know, in all areas to make it uniform.
Yeah. And this is where, like, as I started with dioxazine purple, that's going to pop up all over the place, even when I'm done this.
If you have any questions, folks, feel free to pop it in the chat at any time or turn on your microphone and go ahead and ask. And there's a few new folks that have logged on. So this is Veronica Funk, one of our master artists at Mastrius. And this is our painting challenge. So we're all going to take Veronica's painting and reference photo and use it as inspiration for our own piece. If you are welcome to paint your own favorite chair, compose it however you like, paint it in your medium, in your style, or go ahead and copy Veronica. Just make sure you credit her if you post it. And then we are going to, next week, we're going to meet together again, and we're going to look at everyone's paintings. So take the week to finish the painting, post it on Instagram or email it into us, hashtag Mastrius Painting Challenge. And we're going to gather them up, and then we're going to look at them next week, Friday at noon Mountain Time with Veronica. And we're going to celebrate all the cool, unique styles and compositions and everything that you are working on. Celebrate our differences. What color is the green blue? Question from.
It's turquoise deep. It's a nice, it's also a nice transparent color.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really like. And I just realized I need to change the shape of my pillow a little bit. So I'm going to go back in with some of the purple, maybe mixed with some of the crimson. Chair darker at the top. It's funny, when I started painting, I didn't want to frame anything because I felt like this work was so, felt very contemporary, and it just didn't feel right to have a frame on it. And at that time out here, like everything was framed. And not that I have a problem with frames, I just didn't want to. So I started then painting around the edges of my canvases, and I still do it that way. I love it. That way, if people want to frame it, they can, but they don't have to. Well, the other thing, when I'm painting, I just mix as I go, because I love seeing paint mix on the canvas. And it does interesting things, I think, always.
So Veronica is one of our mentors at Mastrius, and I was just looking on the website. You have 2 emerging groups that have some space in it, it looks like, for emerging artists. Do all of your groups have the focus of creating a body of work?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we talk about things like creating an artist statement, everything, where do you want to go with your work? What inspires you? And that's another thing an artist told me years ago: pay attention to what draws your attention and do that, and it goes with everything from what you do and how you do it, your substrate, your materials, everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so we go right from the beginning right through. So this is the part, it may not be realistic, like how dark and how light everything is in my painting, but it's what I think is, that contrast is what's so interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking value contrast and temperature contrast.
And dark versus light. That's right. Warm versus cool. Yeah. Shapes, even like soft shapes and hard. edges and
Mhm.
man, that sunshine. Not complaining, the sun is nice, but boy, that is bright in my eyes. Yeah, and everything I do, I'm constantly going over, because I always I've learned over time that nothing's really a mistake. It just adds to the end result, right? When you're changing things and mixing new colors. And honestly, sometimes dirty water suddenly does something really interesting to my paint color. And
Mhm. A couple comments Leslie shared. Veronica is an amazing mentor. I've been very lucky to have had her as one. And Joanne says, Veronica helps you to be ready when you need your bio or artist statement for show applications or even media releases. I learned a ton being mentored by her. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, folks.
well, it's so funny. That's funny that Joanne said that, because when I made them do homework to write a statement or press release, she was just like dreading it. And then she was contacted and they had a very short deadline. She said she was so grateful that she had her press release ready. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's really important. This is all the stuff that sometimes you think, why do I need this now? You're going to need it. You will need it. People are interested in what artists are doing.
Mhm.
And just because it seems normal to us, to most people, this isn't a normal career choice, you know?
Mhm.
Well, it's scary, right? It's can be difficult. Can be hard. The other reason too that I like using flow aid media in my work is that you can still blend colors too. I started with oils, and then over time that shifted because of my husband to acrylics. Started with golden, and then I switched to Liquitex, and now I'm switching again to watercolors. So it's been interesting. I've spent the last few months really learning watercolor just in a sketchbook, and I'm really grateful. Like there's been stuff happening in my studio, and I'm really, really pleased with it. Took a while, but it's like anything, right? It takes time and practice. I was watching an artist the other day, a video, because I saw her illustrations when I was in Nova Scotia in September. And she talked about, finding your style. And the thing I always think, the only way you can find your style is really pay attention to what you like doing and how you like doing it. And she basically said the same thing, like you got to do a lot of work. And then she said, and edit. And I found that very interesting.
Yeah. Finding one's style can be a long journey.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's no really arriving what I'm learning.
No.
It continues to morph, right? And change.
Totally. It's always good to hear other artists. Well, it was interesting, to hear their struggles and everything.
Mhm.
She said she wanted to go into illustration. She is originally from, I can't remember where in the States, and she went to art school and she wanted to go into illustration, but she didn't like how computer heavy it was.
Mhm.
So she went into fine arts because she just really wanted to paint. So she started off as an oil painter, but now she is known for children's book illustrations, and she makes paper dolls and stuff. Her name is Brianna Corr, Corr Scott. And I just thought, so she came to it. It took years, but all her practice with her work, it paid off, right?
Yeah.
So she got good at what she did and figured it out.
Awesome. Veronica, would you be able to turn your screen a little bit so that the painting's a little bit more in the middle? Yeah, perfect. And a couple questions have come up. What ratio approximately of water to flow aid?
Well, it tells you on the bottle. It's, 20 parts water to one part of flow aid. So I just take whatever container that I'm using and just kind of guesstimate it. You just don't want to, I'd rather do a little too little than a little too much, because that also affects the stability of your paint if you do too much medium.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little too little, but they tell you in all those, it's really nice. The resources on the websites are fantastic.
And then another question, is Flow 8 the Samosa open acrylic medium and retarder?
I don't know. It's for a lot of artists that do pouring, paint pouring, use Flow 8.
Okay.
That's how I got it. My daughter got a kit, and then she did a thing with, she's a school teacher, and she did a thing with her elementary school class, and then she had leftovers, so she just gave it to me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So yeah.
I'm a GAC junkie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, every different company has their medium that.
Mhm.
Yeah, GAC, do you have to be careful about how much you use with that as well, or no?
No, you can slop it on.
See, that's nice.
Yeah, I don't actually paint without GAC in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it's always mixed in, like I have a puddle on my palette and I'm always adding it in. It just can't be thin enough for me. Another thing we have going right now that some of you might be interested in is our events membership. We have a 1 month free trial going. So if you want to come to our weekly live events that we do, like last night we had live critiques with Charlie Easton and Mitchell Obala. Next week we have painting battles between two of our masters. We have 2-hour live demos. We have panel discussions, you name it, we do it every week. And if you want one of those events memberships for free, go to the website and grab one. You can see the banner at the top of the screen has the try it for free coupon code. Yeah, so just if you don't have one, if you're not a member, grab it while you can. Bit of a promo we've got going.
You know, it's kind of funny because I'm painting at a really funny angle here. So it's, I think that's why I'm really relying on my computer to see what it looks like.
It looks good from here. So what are you working on these days in your studio, Veronica?
Well, I've been trying to utilize, well, I'm still doing my women's work project, which is behind me. There's Dusty right there.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm still working on that. And then that'll be finished, I think, in March. And then I'm also, you know, I've been doing a lot of art journaling and stuff like that. And yeah, like, because I like saving art books, or not art books, sorry, books, and turning them into art, because, you know, books get thrown out at public libraries all the time, or wherever,
yeah,
because they're either outdated or damaged. And so I like to salvage them by using them to create art out of them. So I love art journaling. I started teaching workshops on that years ago, and yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. It's very peaceful, and it's a great way to try mediums and stuff without using them on my canvases. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then plus I've been working on some new portraits with watercolor. So that I'm holding a little close to me right now while I'm figuring it out, but I'm really excited. Mm-hmm.
That's a big change. So watercolor on paper, I assume.
Paper, and I picked up, and on panel, because I picked up some it's a medium that you put on any surface that you can turn that surface into a watercolor surface. And it's neat. It's a Daniel Smith one, but I know a lot of companies have something like that, similar. And what's really cool about it is the one that I got, it's kind of like pearl. And what's great is I got it at our Michael's in town when they were getting rid of all the Daniel Smith products. So I got it for $5.
Oh, wow.
Then I'm not scared to try it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. It really opens things up if you can put it on anything.
Oh, yeah. So I am excited, and I always preferred to work on canvas in the past, and because I like the give of canvas so much. But I'm actually starting to really like working in on wood and paper too. Mind you, I've always done that to a certain extent, but yeah, it's kind of fun to force myself, you know.
Mhm.
I've learned over time everything in life. Things that challenge you can be hard, and change is hard, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Hard is usually good.
Yeah, in the end, you know, you've learned something or start something totally new. Like I know just even nursing the girls for that long, both of them.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy all the time, especially there were a lot of things I had to give up to be there for the girls. Not that I begrudge them, because I was told I'd never have children, so they're my miracle babies.
Oh,
But
really? Wow.
yeah, and but it's not always easy when your whole life revolves around other people all the time. And but now I have this wonderful relationship with both my girls. And I feel very privileged. And it did. It started a whole body of work that I would have never done if not for that, right?
Mhm.
Made me focus on the things that were around me.
Maria says she nursed her kids for 2 years and 3 years, so she gets it.
As a mom,
Yeah.
things you do, it's not bad, it's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really all I've used is titanium white, dioxazine purple, turquoise deep, and alizarin crimson. I thought I was going to use some Indian yellow, but no, I really like it. And you know what, limited palette, I always think is a favorite thing for me, because it, first of all, I struggle with OCD a little bit. And so not having too many choices that, you know, kind of removes that angst about making the right choices. But it's amazing all the colors. Like when I traveled, all I had was 3 watercolors, and you should see how many colors I have in my sketchbook from those 3 watercolors. So, which is cool. I think, was it an A?
Yeah.
Yeah. So years ago, I got really frustrated with the art world. You know, paintings were lost or damaged. I didn't always get paid for paintings that sold. And it was just really frustrating. And I decided to quit, because I just thought, you know what, I can do this as a hobby, but you know, doing it professionally is just way too hard. And so I got this great job at our church. I was the business manager, and I oversaw a $2.5 million construction project. Not something I recommend.
No kidding.
And because I did have a business background, I've always been in business in some form all the time that I painted. But it got to the point. So I had great staff. I loved the people I worked with, loved the job I was doing, but every day I was crying at the dinner table, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. But I thought, you know, my family struggles with clinical depression, and there's a family history of suicide and everything. And I thought, oh no, that's where I am now. Like, this is it. And so at the table, I was crying, and I said, I don't know why I'm crying. And the girls, they were so sweet. They were like in middle school. And they said, Mom, you just need to paint.
Aww.
And yeah, I had sold all my stuff and given it all away. And I just decided, you know, that's when I decided I'm just doing it on my terms. If I exhibit work, it'll be only where I have a good relationship with the galleries or the public spaces and everything. It changed everything. And I have never looked back since. It's been the best decision of my life, you know. Just because somebody says you should do something as an artist or you must do this, you know, you don't have to do it. This is the beauty of being an artist. You get to pick and choose what you want to do.
Exactly.
So that's what I always tell my groups, like decide what is it you want to paint? How do you want to present it? Do you want to write? Do you want to, paint murals? Whatever you want. Do you want to publish your work? You get to decide. And that's the beauty.
Yeah. There's no one way to do it. There's no one way to do it.
There isn't.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is getting there. So, the more layers of darks and lights, I'm going back for midtones, you start getting more shape. And then when I do this, like usually when I work large, this takes me days to get one painting done. When I work smaller, I still do put it aside and then come back to it later, let it dry and cure really, really well before I decide whether it's done or not. And even where the lights are, I don't want a strong block of one color. I just kind of layer those colors and go lighter and darker back and forth. Plus, I've only been working this side of the canvas, so I'm gonna have to finish all the way around. And even that, I don't care if the colors that I mix aren't perfect. I just think that adds interest as well. I'm not into perfection. I only have fun doing it this way. So and I have a friend who keeps saying, oh, I got to loosen up. I got to loosen up. I said, obviously you like how you're working. So just do it. Don't worry about what's maybe popular. And just because something's popular online doesn't mean that it'll sell necessarily. Because I know some of the artists who have the most followers and the most likes and everything, they barely sell anything. They're just social media popular, so that's always something to keep in mind. Don't let, the general public decide. Well, when I started with my interiors, I didn't know if I'd have an audience for it out here in Alberta because everything was more traditional cowboy art and very, very traditional landscapes. But I applied or I submitted packages to 6 galleries and I got contacted by 5 of them. I contacted the best galleries in Calgary because I thought if nothing else, maybe I could get feedback from them. And I had shows in several galleries, well, for a number of years because, it was different. I wasn't doing the exact same thing as everybody else.
I'm going to read some comments here.
Okay.
Cindy says, I'm currently in Veronica's group and she's a wonderful mentor who willingly shares from her vast experiences and expertise. She's a lovely person to work with and is very inspiring. And Deb says, yes, my twins had tummy troubles too and I nursed them for a long time. And Anna said, I came to Mastrius to be mentored by Veronica 2 years ago. Best group ever. Veronica is just so real. Pay attention to what you pay attention to is the best advice I received from Veronica. Also, do what you want to do in your terms. Yeah. And Yvonne says, likes are not dollars.
Right. Well, it's interesting. When I went to art school, my painting professor, he was quite misogynistic. He's no longer there. He was let go a couple years after I finished, but I was so excited to go study painting because I was really intimidated by color. I could draw, but color really was a challenge for me. And, but he told all of us women, the females in the class, women aren't good artists because, they always want to be mothers. And you can't be a mother and an artist. And honestly, it was being a mother that made me a better artist because I cared less about what other people, because my family had to come first. I know, pretty terrible.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And you know what? 95% of our members at Mastrius are women and probably mothers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my girls got me out of the color rut and everything because I was trying too hard to make things look realistic and, trying to do what I saw that was happening. Because this was like, pre-internet, dating myself, but like you had to go to galleries to see what was happening in the art world and stuff. But yeah, kids are good. No kids are good, kids are good. Whatever works, right? Everybody needs, just like anything else, you need to figure out your own way.
Who were some of your inspirations or mentors as you were growing as an artist?
Well, I grew up in northern Manitoba. So the first artwork I was exposed to was Indigenous art.
Oh,
Benjamin Chi was my absolute favorite. And but then I was so sad to hear that he had passed away. He had struggled with addictions and everything. But his was the first work that I saw in person. And then when I was in college, I learned about Georgia O'Keeffe. She was still alive then.
okay.
Yeah. And the thing, I know it seems cliche and everything, but the thing that really touched me about her was that she decided to paint, flowers and the things that mattered to her. She wasn't worried about, what all the men, because it was all men in New York City at that time in the art world. She just painted, she wanted people to stop and look at flowers. It was really, really important to her.
Yeah.
And then I saw that she did things big and she did it wonky, like nothing was perfect. I know she's a landscape artist and I'm not, but it just made me excited to think of the possibilities, I have a little yellow on my palette here. But she was a big one. And then, of course, Canadian artists, female artists, I've been stumbling upon more and more of them in the last few years and thinking, why are these artists, like I've been taking art history and stuff, they're not in the art history books, they're not, in exhibits unless you stumble upon them. So Doris McCarthy is one of them. She's out east. She was a woman who, again, painted on her own terms, and she taught and she built her own house in Georgian Bay. And, her family wanted her to get married and settle down. She never did. And she said the thing that kept her alive, she lived and worked till I think she's in her late 90s, maybe even 100. She said she stopped, she made her own dandelion wine and she stopped for happy hour every day. She had an apple every day and she ate oatmeal every day. And then later I learned about Helen Frankenthaler. She was this little artist who created these large color field paintings. So she'd pour paint onto canvas. Her work is just beautiful, the color in it. And who else was I just thinking of? Oh, what is her name? She did these big sculptures. Another tiny woman in New York City. She did these massive sculptures by getting garbage out of the garbage dumps because she's a single mom. Yeah. And then she would just put this wood together and then she'd spray paint all of it black or white. And her name will come to me. I'll share it.
We have online. 3 minutes to go in the home.
I think we're pretty almost done for now. I'll probably go back in and push some of the highlights a little bit more once it's dry.
That's great. I love the light. I'm having the lamp in there casting that light is brilliant.
Well, my family are all readers, so we always have books and lamps all over. I like it cozy and yeah, so this is my life.
Maria says, my husband's aunt, Lois Bartlett Tracy, was a painter who started in her 40s and painted under just Bartlett so she could get paid attention to. She is in collections at many museums, including the Met in New York City. Okay, so she was hiding her fact that she's a woman. Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that.
No.
And Cindy is asking, do you find that the acrylic gets a bit sticky to work with as you keep going back to do layers, or does the flow aid help keep it workable?
Yeah, oh my goodness, the sun went up. I'm just going to shift this blind. Yeah, the flow aid is not sticky at all. You're right. That's one of the things that I found with certain mediums, that they can be sticky. And I do find that challenge. I don't like sticky because I know Golden years ago sent me their slow dry acrylics. I didn't like them. They felt way too sticky. And I'm really particular how my paint feels and the smell of it.
Yeah.
Not that the scent bothers my husband, but I don't like it. Like even, I love working with gouache. I don't like the smell. And certain gouache, it just like sticks when you're trying. It's not sticky, but it's like, it grabs. And I like things flowing smooth. That's why I like the Floyd media so much.
Yeah, good to know. So many different products out there.
Oh, there are. And you know what? Like when I started, I just used water, but also I didn't use so many transparent, or none. I used no transparent. I just used water basically to rinse my brush, you know?
Yeah, when I started acrylic, I used water to thin my paint, not realizing that it has no binder, right? And so
Yeah.
I had issues with a gallery said, oh, your paint peeled. And then
Yeah.
I found out what I did wrong and switched to GAC, and so that there's binder.
How do you find GAC? Do you find it sticky at all, or no, it's just fluid?
I find it's not sticky when it's in the process of drying and I go back to that spot, it will be sticky and lift. So I have to just be careful to let things dry.
Yeah.
But it only takes like 10 minutes to dry. So I can kind of be working all over the place. It's pretty,
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I have a residency coming up in the summer. So that's why I'm asking, because I might play with different things. It'll just be fun. And so at that point, I'll be at Sparrow Art Space. I'll be exhibiting these portraits and their stories with them, as well as, you know, doing something, trying some different things with my work. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Exciting. Well, we are at the hour, everyone. Thanks for coming. We're going to put this recording on our YouTube channel. If you want to see it again or share it with friends, that's awesome. And before we let you go, Veronica, remember, guys, get your paintings done and post them on Instagram, #Mastrius Painting Challenge, or email it to us and we're going to put them all together. We'll come back next week, Friday, noon Mountain Time, same link, I believe, and we're going to look at everyone's artwork. It's going to be awesome. And
if anybody has any questions, I'm just Veronica Funk on Instagram too. You can message me or whatever.
Awesome. Beautiful work, Veronica. I can't believe you got that done in an hour. Well, even less.
It's not totally done, but it's a good start.
Yeah, oh, it's lovely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your process and for letting us watch you paint and teach us what you know. That's awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. It was so nice to see you today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for coming. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a wonderful week. Bye.